All right, we wrapped up the super fight, you guys. The super fight. I say that and it's in air quotes, but the super fight. The problem child, Jake Paul, takes his first loss as a pro against Tommy, aka TNT Fury, and I'm still going to say Tommy Fury's a bum. If you didn't watch the fight, I'm going to explain why I felt like he's a bum before the fight. I feel like he's more of a bum watching now this fight, but I thought let's do this fun. Let's do this the right way. So what I'm going to do, there was a script circling around that was allegedly going to be the script of the fight. And I'm going to contrast what was in the script to what we saw on fight night to either confirm or debunk what was put in the script. I thought we'd just have some fun here because let's be honest, this was just a fight between two people who didn't like each other. It was obvious by the way they were throwing with bad intentions, in most cases both, but certainly Paul. He was just kind of winging and throwing shots like boots against Karen Chikagian, right? That was what it was, just an emotional battle. It was not really a boxing match that I could call. And Tommy Fury, he wasn't excessively engaging, but he was doing a lot of things that I think would have pissed people off. It certainly wasn't worth people's money. But let's go down this. So if you didn't know about this script, the script is apparently from Saudi Arabia. There was some company and they circulated this around and it was going to break down what was going to happen round by round. They talked about things with the ring walk songs and the outfits. So I'm not going to cover those because that's a waste of time. I'm just going to go by the round by round because, they could have changed stuff, right, when it got caught. I'm just going to talk about the script. Is it a real script or not a real script? And then the play-by-play of what happened in the fight. Let's get it right in here. All right, so the script round one, quote, the fighters start off cautiously, circling each other and throwing jabs. Jake Paul lands a solid left hook. Tommy Fury responds with a quick right hand. So what I saw is Tommy Fury came out aggressive. He kind of like Tyson Fury came out against Wilder in the second fight. It just seemed like there was a lot of emotions coming from Tommy Fury. He came and went after Jake Paul. Jake Paul was not really fighting back like we expected he would. And it seemed like Paul didn't expect Tommy to come out that way. That's what I saw anyway. I didn't see that the round one on the script followed what we saw in round one of the fight, at least not from my eyes anyway. Round two, quote, Tommy Fury takes control of the fight. So we already debunked that because Tommy Fury clearly had control in the first round. It was not even close. Quote, landing several combinations to Jake Paul's body. Paul seems to be struggling to find his rhythm and the crowd starts to get restless. In round two, I would argue Jake Paul landed a couple of really good shots. However, it did seem like he was thrown off by the strategy of Tommy. So under no circumstances, I didn't see the combos to the body that were talked about. I didn't. Maybe somebody else did. I certainly did not. And as far as crowd getting restless, I didn't see crowd getting restless. The crowd seemed to be hot for it. They just were confused at what they were seeing. It didn't seem to make sense because what we saw anyway, as either at home or in the crowd, is just two guys that were just kind of throwing at each other. There wasn't really very much like that would cause the crowd to be restless. It was an action fight throughout. So we did see Tommy Fury, after he does this, he kind of backs off. He's starting to try to fight a little bit more back foot there. Paul's still throwing, but Tommy's doing a good job evading. Tommy clearly won that second half of the fight. The crowd did get a little annoyed by Tommy backing off, but he had winded himself clearly from the first round, I saw anyway. And Paul was loading up, trying to land that right hand. He finally does land it, but that wasn't until round three. So let's talk about that one. Quote, Jake Paul rallies, throwing jabs and hooks to catch Fury off guard. Fury starts to backpedal, trying to avoid Paul's punches. So first of all, Jake Paul is not a jabber. He'll jab, but it's not his forte. So what I saw in round three is that Jake Paul, he came in, he was doing like some things. He was setting up shots, and he was able to land big shots, like shots that have dropped guys before. And Tommy at least was prepared for the shot, clearly, because he was able to take it and didn't go down. He did, as in Paul, did throw some jabs every now and then, but it wasn't like he was using the jab to control the fight. That's not what we saw anyway. And I didn't see Tommy backpedal. I mean, he took the shot and he did go back a bit, and he wasn't as engaging as he was before, but I didn't see him like aggressively backpedal from my eyes anyway. So Paul was clearly trying to get the knockout. He was clearly trying to take the guy out by round three because he knew that obviously he had lost round 1 and 2. That's the story of the fight. And I think the trash talk just kind of got to everybody because we started to see like it was kind of like WWE. It's all this sort of yelling and all this garbage. Round 4, this is from the script. Quote, Fury seems to be having trouble with his left eye, which is starting to swell shut. Paul takes advantage of Fury's vulnerability, landing several hard shots to the head. I didn't see at any point that Fury had a swollen eye by round 4. It's not what I saw. In fact, what I saw is that Tommy Fury was actually coming forward. He landed some really good shots. Paul was getting hit, but he wasn't backing down. And I didn't see that Jake Paul was doing enough to keep the onslaught back. He landed a couple shots, but not enough to get Tommy's respect. In other words, Tommy felt like, especially now, like he was trying to prove something. So he was actually moving forward more than I expected. Round 5, quote, Fury's eye is now almost completely closed, and this is not true. And the ringside doctor is, quote, calling to take a look. The doctor determines that Fury can continue, but warn him that he may have to stop the fight. This is not true. None of that happened in round 5. Ultimately, Tommy Fury was landing, I wouldn't say at will, he was landing really good punches. It seemed like he gassed by this point. Paul was desperate. He started throwing shots. The ref takes a point from him for a rabbit punch. Now, in the midst of all this, Tommy Fury is doing a lot of clinching because Paul's coming aggressive, and that's how you nullify an aggressive fighter is with clinches. I know some people like NSB, they don't like it, but it's a legal strategy when you're dealing with an overly aggressive fighter to slow him down. In the clinch, then Paul was just kind of throwing because his arms are free, and just that punches were landing as rabbit punches, and the ref took a point off him. So now you got Tommy Fury arguably has won at least 3 rounds, if not more, but at least 3 rounds. And then Paul gets a point taken off, which certainly doesn't help his case. Under no circumstances was there an eye issue. The doctor was not called. None of that happened. Round 6, quote, Paul smells blood. He starts to press the attack. Fury's having trouble seeing the punches, and he starts to take more punishment. In round 6, we saw that Tommy Fury was arguably having his way. If anybody had an eye injury, it was Jake Paul. He started to get a little bit of I think it was a mouse or a cut, something under one of his eyes. But it didn't like cut open all the way. There was no blood streaming. But Tommy Fury was hitting him much more accurately than Paul was hitting back. Now, once in round 6, we saw a situation where because Tommy Fury, what happened, he was starting to clinch and finally the ref was finally doing his job and took a point off of Tommy Fury, but that's about it. Ultimately, round 6 was almost all Tommy Fury minus this point deduction. So we've pretty much debunked the script start to finish in what was called out. So we know the script was crap. Now, here's the bottom line as I wrap this up. The story of this fight, I said before, I said Tommy Fury's a bum. I still say he's a bum because if you look at the performance of the fight, he did what he was supposed to do early on in the fight, which was arguably outbox Jake Paul. Jake Paul was trying to land knockout punches. He was able to land his signature shot. It didn't take Tommy Fury down. The problem is that Jake Paul threw that shot way too early. And I think there was a bit of desperation that got in the way. And this may just be bad corner advice. But if he had simply said, you know what, cool, you can outbox me or whatever for 4 rounds, all that, and then unleashed the shot, I think he would have done a better job of getting Tommy to the point where the shot was going to cause him to respect him. I think throwing it so early, Tommy was anticipating it and ready for it. Like, in other words, I think Jake Paul could have tricked Tommy if he had just simply kind of played the game, box smart, make it seem like he wasn't going to throw the knockout, make it seem like he wanted to outbox, like convince Tommy he wanted to try to outbox him. And no, he didn't do that. He basically blew his load early in the fight when Tommy was prepared for it. And so by the time Paul realized what was going on, he was already gassed. Like he seemed like he gassed around rounds 5 or 6. Later then, in round 8, Tommy Fury gets dropped. Some people debated that it was a slip, but no, he actually got hit by the punch. So he goes down. It's a legit knockdown, but it's only the one knockdown of Tommy Fury. Now, let's be honest here. Tommy should not have got knocked down because if you think about how good he did early on, he clearly took his eyes off the prize, kind of like Porter did against Adrian Broner when they fought. That's what happened there. But that's why I'm saying that if you think about it, if Jake had simply held back on trying to get the knockout until like round 5 or 6, I'd say probably round 6, if he had held back and just not even got tempted to throw that shot, I think he might have had a good chance of getting a stoppage this time. If for no other reason, it's like Certain fighters know to preserve themselves. Errol Spence is a good example. They know to preserve themselves in the early rounds because they're in there against a boxer or they're in there against somebody with a tank. Tommy Fury clearly has somewhat of a tank. He didn't really gas in this fight. But I think when Jake Paul blew his load early in like round 3 or whatnot, at that point, you've already given away your strategy. You've already told Tommy what you're about to do. And so Tommy knew what he needed to do in order to stay up all the way to distance. To Tommy, to me, it's an indictment that he got taken the distance by a YouTuber. Regardless, all this showed me is, first of all, he should not have gotten dropped by a YouTuber. So let's put that at number 1. Number 2, I think Jake Paul, he could have beaten Tommy Fury. I think his strategy sucked. I think he threw that shot, his knockout shot, way too damn early. Not because he thought, I think it was just like instinct. I don't think he was in his mind saying now's the time. It was kind of desperation. It was kind of desperation, frustration of, I got to do something to get this guy out. Instead of kind of being calm, relax, it'll come, let the knockout come. You hear trainers say that all the time. So to me, I think Jake Paul could have beat Tommy Fury if he had a different strategy, because from skill to skill, I didn't see Tommy significantly more skilled than Jake Paul. What I saw was Jake Paul had a jacked up strategy going into the fight. Tommy Fury initially, I think, had the right game plan in terms of it's kind of like Jacobs and Quillen. I'm just going to go after this guy because he's not going to expect that I will. This was a battle of smarts. This was a battle of ring IQ. But let's be honest. Tommy Fury gets blasted out by every C-level in his division. Jake Paul very well might, but it really depends on styles. If Jake Paul's in there against somebody who's not that boxer mover, he might actually have a chance to hold with those folks. Seems like Jake Paul's weakness is those fighters who are going to box smart and box move, box back foot. That's where his weakness is. So I don't dismiss Jake in this one. I do dismiss Tommy because I see you do have that ring IQ against this guy here, but at the same time, that strategy is not going to work against even the C level of the current division that's out there. You'd have to do something a little bit more, and your power never made Jake respect you either. So if you get guys who know how to strike and who know how to land, who don't gas, I see you're in hot, almost swore, hot stuff, brother. So bottom line, I give respect to both guys for getting in there and finally getting it done after so many delays and cancellations and reschedules. All I say is I think Jake has something there. I think he needs to, in his corner, if he's going to continue doing this, it's game plan. Game plan, I'll say stamina, but certainly game plan. It's like learn when to throw that shot. Say what you will about Deontay Wilder. One good thing about him, he knows when to throw that shot. He doesn't just wing it, throw it every single time throughout the fight. He'll wait for the right time to throw that shot before he lands it. And then it takes somebody like a Tyson Fury who can take that shot. Everybody else goes out. I think Jake, that's what he lacks in his corner. The training to understand when to throw the knockout punch and learning to just be patient and let the knockout come instead of aggressively going for it. I think that's what lost him this fight. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried to do a rematch on this. It wouldn't surprise me. I don't want to see it because I think it'd be the same outcome simply because I think Jake, if he's going to continue doing this, he needs a little bit more refinement before we can be convinced that he's truly legit. And as far as Tommy, he needs to fight somebody at least the C level in the division so we can test him against somebody who's truly a threat, and let's see what goes on there. If they both go that route, then I wouldn't mind seeing a rematch in the future once they've kind of developed their game a little bit.